Josh Duggar is finally being transferred from the jail he's been staying at since he was convicted and awaiting sentencing. According to documents obtained by Us Weekly, Duggar was transferred on Friday, June 24th at 4 a.m. It could take a few days before they update his exact location. He's either going to FCI Segoville or FCI Texarkana. Both are just a few hundred miles away from the Washington County Jail. Anna made what I really feel is a pretty pitiful post on Instagram a couple days ago. The post reads, "Officially 34, 14 years since I said yes, road tripping to visit my bestie. Even if by mercy me on repeat, Jesus, I will cling to you, come what may." Many people are assuming that road tripping to visit her bestie means she's going to visit Josh at whatever prison he's been sent to. It truly makes me sad to think about Anna at this point in time, and I am saying prayers for her and her kids. I can't imagine what's ahead of her. Welcome, friends. I've been quiet lately because I've been heading down a new rabbit hole. One with a tangled web based in a small town in Utah. I'm in deep thought about how to bring this story to my channel, but for now, I wanted to make a video about a sermon I was shocked to find on YouTube addressing Josh Duggar's scandals. The preacher is leading his community to put blinders on about what happened with Josh. Blinders to keep their eyes on the prize. True salvation. Forget about what happens on the road to getting there. You might suffer greatly and watch those around you repeatedly victimized. But what does it really matter if you're heading towards the arms of your Savior in the world beyond this one? But first, I need to talk to you, my subscribers, about Bobby Holts. Bobby! Or Bobby. The community that Bobby represents, and my opinions about what's really going on here. A couple of weeks ago, Bobby Holt, the matriarch of the Holt family, who carried on a decades-long friendship with the Duggars, betrothed their daughter to Josh and testified in Josh's CP case about her role in his life, went on a podcast called The Sojo Files. I've talked about the Sojo Files many times before. I really like the show. The host is based in Arkansas and attended the trial and sentencing. She's made contact with people close to the Duggar family. She's interviewed several of them on her show, and she's done a great job contacting and interviewing sources from the Duggars' inner circle. When Bobby appeared on her show, she labeled that video Part 1, and the interview mainly focused on much of what we heard from Bobby during and after the trial. Bobby explains her role in Josh's life and her relationship with the Duggar parents. She lets us know she wanted desperately to help and repair the issues within the Duggar family. She wanted Josh to get the right kind of treatment, but she also believed in forgiveness and second chances. We all know that Bobby allowed Josh Duggar back into her home, and she was okay with potentially rekindling a relationship between Kaylee Holt and Josh after he admitted to SM and his parents got him treatment. Bobby ends Part 1 on the Sojo Files, letting us know there is more to the story, possibly much more. Part 2 has yet to be released. I can't confirm, but unfortunately, I heard that Sojo is only releasing it to a select group of people, and I don't know much more than that. Personally, I'm really grateful that Bobby Holt testified in Josh's CP trial. Without her, the outcome could have been very different, and the information she shared brought up so much light to the inner workings of what was going on in the Duggar family and within the church community when Josh originally committed SM. This information is crucial to unpacking and revealing the reality of the IBLP. I imagine it confirmed and relieved many people within or on the outskirts of that community who were always wondering if the Duggars were really as perfect as they seemed on TV. They felt they couldn't live up to what was presented on their show, and then they were shocked when Josh was caught cheating on his wife. So much seemed incongruent, and now we have some answers, and a lot of those answers came from Bobby's testimony. But for me, to be honest, there is something missing. I have a lot of questions for Bobby and Jim Holtz. Maybe I'm just not understanding every aspect of their story, or maybe I can't put myself in their shoes adequately. I question why they really thought it was a good idea to give Josh another chance with their daughter. I mean, I really question what they saw in Josh as a potential mate in the first place, if I'm being totally honest with you. I don't know. Maybe things were different back then, but the young guy that made his appearances on 19 Kids and Counting seemed so cocky and unrepentant about anything. If someone told me that he had done something horrible just a couple of months or a year prior and went into treatment, I would not believe that I was seeing someone who really was humbled and wanted to make a change in his life. So I just question, could you really look at this guy and how he was at the beginning of the show, knowing what he had done, and think he deserved a second chance? Other things about this story don't make a lot of sense to me. There are simple elements I don't get, like supposedly Jim Holt fell asleep while Josh was talking to Bobby and Jim about his unhealthy feelings towards his sisters. I mean, what's that all about? I really believe I'm missing a deeper understanding of what's going on there. For a while, I've mostly kept those questions to myself because it's like, okay, maybe I just don't know all of the details. And as I've been watching by the sidelines, another channel without a crystal ball decided to publicly make statements about her alleged interactions with Bobby Holtz. Okay, so if you don't know who Without a Crystal Ball is, she's a YouTuber. She has her own YouTube channel, and she talks a lot about the Duggars. She covered the original trial back in the fall. So Without a Crystal Ball had to say this. Bobby and Jim Holt have been speaking out on a podcast, Sojo Files, about the Duggars. They are publicly revealing a lot of details about their lives with the Duggars. Back in November, I spoke with the Holts for the first time. Much of what they've said on the podcast is what they told me. They allege that Josh's interactions with his sisters were way more severe than the Duggars let on. They also said that the Duggars didn't want to report Josh to police. I reported this in the fall. I spoke with numerous friends that were around during this period. Jim Bob and Jim Holt were friends from childhood. They have similar beliefs. I found Jim Holt to be slightly more likable at first. The Holts have a lot of dirt on the Duggars. The problem is that they also have a lot of their own dirt. Anyone that's associated with the Duggars was involved in an extremist religion where women hold no value at all. Daughters are treated horrifically. The Holts told me, along with the second source, that all the families practice corporal punishment. They admitted to using, and then she goes on to talk about some things that she says the Holts told her. The Holts also say there is more to be exposed about the Duggars. I told you there have long been rumors about the issues not being isolated to Josh. There has never been anyone to come forward to accuse any other sons or Jim Bob. The Holts continued their friendship with the Duggars and Josh. Josh worked for Jim Holt on his campaign after he SM'd his sisters for years. Josh went into their home and practically lived with them in Little Rock. He slept in a dorm, not with the family. There's a lot we don't know and may never know. Always remember that everyone involved had unclean hands about the situation. Just my 2 cents. Okay, so maybe I'm misconstruing what's going on here, but I interpret this as Katie Joy stating that she decided not to pursue a relationship or interview with the Holts because she felt that they carried their own dirt from the IBLP and she didn't want to get involved with that. There were a lot of responses to Katie Joy's posts about the Holts, asking her to stop talking negatively about them. And then someone sent me this post from Sojo File's Discord page. Guys, I have to let you know, I don't even know what Discord is. I don't understand it. But many people on Reddit made comments stating that these posts were likely about Without a Crystal Ball. And here's what Sojo had to say. Okay, so basically Sojo Files seemed pretty upset on this Discord page about people, I guess, reporting on or talking about her interview with the Holts. And so she says, Josh Duggar has filed an appeal. I implore all of you to rub two brain cells together and think about the implications of the internet spreading gossip and drama about people's personal lives, particularly those who were key witnesses in Josh's trial, that are no one's business could have. If you want to help Josh Duggar out, keep running your mouth. Now I'm going to get back to real work. I bid you good day. And let me remind y'all that I know more about this case and the people involved than anyone online covering it or reading about it, period. That's not BS, that's fact. People can argue all they want to if they feel the need, but I was there for the trial and proceedings and I know the parties involved, so don't assume you know more. And she basically said, I don't care. She goes on, it's a lot, and she basically goes on to say that she doesn't care about the personal lives or what's going on with the Duggars. She only cares about the case. And I have been nice to everyone online that covers this case. I have helped other content creators and reporters cover this case. And I'm pretty sure that's true because I remember during the original trial in the fall, I didn't even have a YouTube channel then, but Sojo Files was, I think, giving information to Without a Crystal Ball about what was being said in the courtroom because she was there in the courtroom. I've had people talk badly about me online and Duggar groups constantly. Fine, I really don't give an F. I get false information sent to me that was reported constantly. I correct it so many times nicely. I've tolerated a lot covering Duggar, but when people potentially damage the credibility of a key witness in this case that currently has an appeal in the works, you are helping Josh Duggar. And now I am, she basically says, not happy. And she kind of goes on to say that she's not going to release the second part of her interview to everyone. She's only going to release it to certain people. So, that's the background of what is seemingly going on regarding the talk about the Holts on these platforms, and I just wanted to speak out about my opinions on some of these issues. First and foremost, of course, I'm grateful to Bobby. She protected her own daughter in the end. She allegedly reached out to the Duggars and advised them to get further help for Josh. And when it really mattered, she walked into a publicized trial and told the truth about a very difficult situation. I'm sure that wasn't easy. Sojo doesn't want people digging up more dirt on the Holts, and she doesn't think it's necessary, and I get that and I agree with it in certain ways. But for me, the Holts represent something much bigger. This may be an unpopular opinion, but I'm going to make it clear anyway. The Holts and so many others like them represent the willingness of a community to throw Josh Duggar and his parents under the bus so that they can ignore the real and desperate issues at hand with the organization of the IBLP, the IFB, and others. Josh Duggar was created by their system, and their system is broken and damaging so many families, especially so many children. The IBLP teaches that if you are born as a female, you exist to have children and take care of the home. You are underneath every man in your life. The organizational model of the IBLP isolated and shamed children growing up in these families, like the Duggars. It fostered purity culture. It taught umbrellas of protection. It pushed homeschooling at all costs. It heralded families who were as quiverful as possible. And my channel and all of the many videos that I've made have shown how these theories and these ideologies are what created people like Josh and Anna Duggar. Whew. So friends, my question is, why haven't the Holts and other people like them, the Gates, the Wallers, the Forsyths, spoken publicly about the dangers of strict fundamentalist ideology? Why haven't they spoken specifically about the IBLP and how that contributed to what happened to Josh and his sisters? Why aren't they trying to save future generations from what happened in the Duggar home? How can you recognize what happened with Josh and not have a clear understanding that raising your kids with this over-the-top fundamentalist agenda is damaging? That's the question I really have for the Holts and other families like them. Maybe they have a simple and sufficient answer. I don't know. But this isn't just about Josh Duggar. I'm not surprised, nor do I need to overturn every rock in the IBLP to find every person who's ever done something horrible, because rather than demonize each individual in a public forum, what we need to be outed in the public is the real change and denouncement of what the IBLP stood for. So friends, here comes the perfect example of how people who supported the IBLP, who believe in fundamentalist Christianity that resembles what was going on in the IBLP, who are part of the IFB, this is the perfect example of how they are trying to cover up and sweep under the rug what happened with Josh Duggar. It's a Josh Duggar problem. It's a Jim Bob and Michelle problem. It is not a problem with the system, with the ideology, according to preachers like Todd Friel. He hosts Wretched TV and Radio, and I would like to share with you a video he made a couple of years back before Josh Duggar was convicted of CP. The video acts as a sermon telling Christians how they should address people if anyone tries to question them about what happened with the Duggars, what happened with Josh Duggar, and was Josh Duggar a hypocrite. And basically, the sermon is saying, we're going to sweep that all under the rug. We're going to work around that. We're going to let them know that it's Christ who we lean on and depend on. You guys, I was shocked when I watched this sermon on his channel. Please check it out and let me know what you think in the comments.
What should be our attitude, our posture, as we respond to the second Duggar disaster? In a sense, I think it should be a little different than the first go-around that we had with Josh. He was a boy who did sinful things. He then says he made a profession of faith, and then he appeared to be walking in sanctification. And so we jumped in and said, we defend him. That's just a conversion story. Oh, I know his sin was maybe a little bit more extreme than some, but just the same, that's the gospel. Such were all of us. We were all sinners of all shapes, stripes, and sizes. And Josh was no different. So we jumped in and we defended him and said, no, you're confused. He's not a hypocrite. He's just a Christian. That happened before he got saved. Unfortunately, being a member of Ashley Madison for a couple of years, being addicted to pornography for we don't know yet how many years, he is now a different story, because those sins happen after his profession of faith. So we're dealing with just a different approach on the story, and I think it demands a slightly different posture. This time, rather than correcting the world, I think overall we need to agree with the world. You're right. He's a hypocrite. That's not how Christians behave. Now, we're going to deal with the subject of how a true and a false convert behaves, but we can agree with the world that that is hypocrisy. What is a hypocrite? Somebody who says this, but they live like this. They profess this, but they behave like that. That's a hypocrite. And Josh, he admitted that he's the world's biggest hypocrite. Now, I don't know if he's the world's biggest, but he's definitely in the pantheon. He was a hypocrite by his own profession. And so rather than, okay, world, hey, watch what you, or hey, well, we're going to teach you really good theology. You know what, world? You're absolutely right. This is a really ugly story. Our posture with the world should be, I think, quite meek and humble. But we need to also speak the truth in love. I mean, this is always our guiding principle, but we want to be careful that as we're being really loving now and kind of, yeah, you're right, you got us on the ropes here, we still have to speak the truth. We can't just say, okay, now we're not going to talk about Jesus being the way, the truth, the life. No, we have to still, no matter what our posture is in a particular situation, speak truth in love. And if I could encourage you, when you talk about these issues around the water cooler, be thinking gospel. That is how these stories can be used. Think gospel. Now, I'm not going to tell you when somebody says this, then you say that. Just think gospel. All right, all right, let's give this a go. This is such a mistake. Hey, Adrian, did you want to ask me about Josh Duggar?
Tell me about Josh. What about Josh Duggar?
Big Macs are on sale this week at McDonald's.
That made no sense about what I was asking you.
But
I was asking you what about.
But see, that's what I was thinking about McDonald's.
Have you heard about?
No, you know what? Let me tell you though. I know that this story is the whole scandal in Ashley Madison.
Right.
But let me tell you about Big Macs and Quarter Pounders and French fries. Now, okay, I told you that would be a disaster. Now, why was I insisting on steering the conversation toward the Golden Arches? Because that's what I'm thinking of. We should be thinking about the gospel. Somebody's going to, hey, what about the Josh Duggar story? Be thinking, how do I get to the gospel? How do I get this person to understand that they need to repent and put their trust in Jesus? I want to steer things toward what's important, and that is the gospel. And at the same time, being willing to explain the difference between a true and a false convert, because there is a difference. Without, remember, rendering a judgment on Josh. That's not our role. We're the body, not the church. It's their job to make that declaration. But even so, because Josh, by his own behavior and admission, has called into question his profession of faith, we can at least use that to talk about the difference. There are people who profess to be believers in Jesus Christ, but they do not possess a saving faith. And we can use this to discuss that without trashing Josh. And finally, judge truth, not Josh, should be our message to the world. If you're watching this and you're thinking this whole Josh Duggar thing, that just undermines all of Christianity. Don't judge Jesus. Don't judge the object of our faith based on the behavior of some of his followers, whether true or otherwise.
Okay, so from my point of view, this pastor is basically like, Josh should be forgiven for his sins of SM against his sisters, because he got help, Christian help, and he was saved by Jesus. Guys, I personally love me some Jesus, but I guess I've been lucky enough to go to churches where the leaders were more on the side of, okay, we can forgive, but heck no, we're not accepting blindly any kind of doctrine that leads down the path of men treating women as less than. We are not backing any doctrine that says it's okay to use and mistreat women and or children. But Pastor Friel says it's more okay to denounce what Josh Duggar did when he eventually went on to cheat on his wife. Now he can finally admit that Josh is a hypocrite, and maybe Josh shouldn't have acted that way. Pastor Friel calls it a really ugly story. Yet, he turns it all around, sweeping it under the rug and saying we can still speak the truth. Okay, I get it. I want to speak the truth in love. And my personal way of doing that is speaking the real truth about the serious stuff going on in the church. Because I want the church to be better and to be more Christ-like. And for that, we need to speak openly and honestly about what's going on here. This sermon aged terribly because Josh went on to participate in looking at CSAM online. Be he a believer in Christ or not, he must be trashed. He must be judged so that all the little girls and boys in all of our churches can know and believe that you, as their leaders and pastors, will fully protect them no matter what. Okay, so what do you guys, my subscribers, think about all of this? I always read all of your comments. Please leave me a comment below and let me know all about your opinions on Pastor Friel, the Holts, and the ongoing saga of Josh Duggar. I'm glad I finally got to spend some time with you again, friends. I'm heading off to bed, and I hope you take some time to head down your own rabbit hole.